Hello and welcome to this episode of the Big Picture Podcast. My name is Lewis and I shall be your host today. Before we get into today's episode, some general housekeeping. If you're new here and don't know what we do, well, we take aspects of media and culture, discuss them, and provide unsolicited opinions on how to improve them. If you want to keep up with all things Big Picture, including future topics, fan polls, and more, you can follow us on both Instagram and Twitter at _the Big Picture. I also want to take some time to say thank you for those that checked out the live stream in our last episode. If you want to check out next time we go live, you can follow the Twitch channel, which is my own personal Twitch channel, at SweetLou2, in which you can see big picture content myself. But now we'll need to get to our illustrious panel and today's episode. So, there are many divisive and intensive versus topics in history. You've got DC versus Marvel, Star Wars versus Star Trek, Backstreet Boys versus NSYNC. But today we have a much more intense one. UK office versus US office. It's bound to be a topic for the water coolers of offices for years to come. But before we get to the topics, you need to know who's going to be discussing them. Introducing first, he was our last host. It's the man who hates capitalism. It's Reese. Oh, wait a minute. Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. It's the first time in Big Picture history. I've just been told that Reese has invested into Dunder Mifflin and needs to oversee an exchange of ownership and can't join us today. It's unfortunate he can't be here, but we wish him the best with his recent investment. Hope he has the best time over in New York. Moving on, we have the winner of Capitalism the Game, aka Monopoly, from our last episode, Jack. Jack, thanks for coming into the office today. How are you feeling after your victory your last episode? Granted, not for your opinions, but more for your exploitation of market and labour.
I just play the system and I win. I know how to keep in line as the big bad people in the world want you to do, and that's what allowed me to win the game of Monopoly. But it was a great time. It was a great time all around, getting to play some games, doing something a bit different, and knowing that we can do that and just have general shit talk. It was great.
There's one thing to be said, is a diverse portfolio is a much stronger one. And I will say, when it comes to Monopoly, Jack is about as ruthless as they can come. And next, I guess we'll kind of welcome in our very own Michael Scott. Stuart. Welcome, Stuart. Glad you could join us on this international office Zoom meeting, I guess. How are you today?
I was really hoping that you wouldn't come to me next, because I've just spilt a packet of hobnobs everywhere. But I'm good. Thanks. That's not a joke. Like, they are everywhere. All right. It's the worst. It's the worst biscuit to drop. All right. Like, it's everywhere. But thank you, Lewis. I'm looking forward to tidying this up and getting on with the rest of the show.
That is a very Michael Scott thing to do, I guess. And finally, by default, it's our David Brent. Adam, welcome to our office debate today. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. First person asked it. I'm glad to be a part of this fantastic meeting that we're going to have today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So, in case you haven't figured it out, we're going to be talking about US-UK office, but we need to have a little discussion here. So, diving in, we need to establish a baseline. We asked you guys over on Instagram what version you preferred, and with a final outcome, with a slight caveat, because I've got to subtract my own vote, as I'm a host, I can't have an opinion. It was a literal 50-50 split. Now, I can guarantee the panel won't be the same because there's three of them, but unfortunately we have to get through this. So I posed the same question to our panelists. Adam, you can go first. Adam, what version of the show do you prefer and why? I know there's some general debate around the Americanization of British shows, and this is a comedy. Is the US Office distinct enough to take the top spot, or does the UK just do it better for you?
I think I probably have to lean toward the US Office. Like, I do love. It's kind of strange because I'm such a lover of UK humour. And there's lots of British sitcoms that I really enjoy, but I don't know. Maybe it was just because the first time I watched the UK Office, like, I didn't gel with it as well. Like, I've watched it since, and I enjoyed it. But I think when you compare it to my first time watching the US Office, and it was like, obviously the first season maybe not as strong, but I still I've kind of maybe a bit more invested. And I actually wanted to get through it, and then I think part of it is maybe it's like, I guess it's the Americanization of it, of like finding the characters in the US Office a lot more likable, but then that is kind of the point. So I guess again it just depends what you're there to watch it for, but maybe just for what I look for in a sitcom, I just found that US Office kind of had that more in supply.
I think when it comes to diversity of characters, the US maybe has a bit of strength there, but we'll get into that later. Jack, same question to you. UK versus US, where do you find yourself standing?
I think it's well known that I'm a huge lover of the US Office. It's a program that I'm able just to stick on in the background and just watch. It just has that rewatchability factor for me that I don't know that I've got the same attachment to with the UK Office, but I do love both. The UK Office is great. I just if I had to tell which one I had to pick one to watch, I would pick the US Office. I think I'd maybe have a more enjoyable time watching that. But I am ready to concede certain aspects of the show and what we're going to be doing today in our discussions, which I think will be quite good.
Interesting caveat to throw at the end there. I guess hopefully he's cleaned his hobnobs by now. Stuart, it's 2 versus none. Are you going to make it 2-1 or is it going to be a clean sweep?
Sorry to say the hobnobs are not cleaned. Do you know what? Remember hobnobs used to come in those resealable packs? What happened to those? Right. Climate change be damned. But I'm going to come out and I'm going to say that the UK Office is, to me, a better show. I will concede, much as how Jack's can throwing concessions out, I will concede that the US Office is definitely the funnier show. It handles the comedy much better in a general sense. But I do prefer the UK Office. I think it gets overlooked quite a lot in how much it changed comedy in general, and I just prefer that kind of a bit more, deeper British comedy. I prefer shows, even American shows that kind of tap into that, the likes of Always Sunny. I just prefer the likes of Peep Show and the UK Office in the thick of it. That's my kind of comedy wheelhouse, but both shows are great in their own rights.
I think when it comes to UK US comedy differences, I think it's a bit of a cringe factor. I think UK maybe walks that line enough for everybody, but the US Office kind of tilts a bit too far for general UK populations. But apparently not, because it's a 50-50 split and it's a clean sweep for the US Office here. So clearly I don't know what I'm talking about. But now they have the baseline set, this is how today's show is going to work. I shall pose a kind of versus situation to the panel, providing a brief overview and open it up to debate and their own opinions. Each section shall be voted upon, and by the end, a winner shall be decided. If by some stroke of luck it's a tie, which is physically impossible, the UK Office will win by default because it's first, and not by the merit of the arguments provided. Anyway, to our first topic. Topic 1 will be cast and characters. A defining feature of both these series, as well as successful series in general, is a fantastic set of cast and characters. The Office is no different, so I pose this question to the panel here. Which show has the strongest cast and characters? I do ask, though, that you do not include the leads, Michael Scott and David Brent, in your choices, as they will be their own topic later on. Quick overview, the UK has a solid main and supporting cast. Gareth Keenan plays the awkward one, Tim Canterbury the smartass, and Don Tinsley is kind of extended cast interjecting in various episodes over the 2 seasons that it ran. On the US side, there's Dwight, Jim, and Pam. It's the main cast. I've been told there's sometimes episode stealing, as well as the extended cast such as Stanley, Kelly, Meredith, and Kevin, who provide tertiary laughs throughout. Now, the US has a slight advantage here due to its extended run, as staff came and went over the 9 seasons that it had. So, Adam, you're up first. Which show had the best cast?
Well, I think going off the reason why I like the US Office more, I think I would have to go with the US Office for this one. I think you've just got, you're right, the backup characters do give so many of the kind of extra laughs, and if you look, and I don't want to get too ahead of myself into later topics, but when a lot of the jokes and stuff people make reference to are their favourite moments from certain show from each show, you generally find with the UK Office, for me, maybe you tend to find most of them are David Brent related. While I would say there's at least, I would even go as far as say maybe a 50-50 split on the US Office for the backup characters and the leads for the kind of funny moments. I think it's just a testament to the show and the characters themselves that they can provide that. You never feel bored, especially even if they still have the episodes but it's kind of they're the leads, and you still you don't necessarily feel bored, you don't feel less interested. Like you definitely care about each of those characters in their own right.
Yeah, I think obviously there's a strength there with The Office. Having that length of time, it gives it a chance to flush out extra characters. Stuart, for yourself, who's stronger, US versus UK?
Yeah, I think the UK office has the best cast. Not only have you got amazing actors for these roles, with like Mackenzie Crook, Lucy Davis, Stephen Merchant, and of course Martin Freeman, but like these actors, you've got this caliber of actors that made the material work. When you look at the US office, the majority of those characters had to be changed in order to make the show work, whether that's for the second season or like just seasons in general. Um, I feel like some of them is almost like character assassinations. I mean, you've got the case of, is it Andy that takes over once Michael Scott leaves? I think that's his name. Like, he seems like a dumber character when he takes that role, and certain characters again they sacrifice the kind of overarching theme or their character traits just for in terms of the show. And I feel like the UK office didn't sell out its characters. Some of the moments in the British show are so real. Like when I was watching it, it didn't feel like characters. It felt like actual people. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I've legit never seen a sitcom like that before. And the cast of the US office always felt like they'd look at the camera and basically say, "It's okay, you're in on the joke as well," to the audience. Whereas the cast of the UK office, it's so much more than surface level, and I think it makes that cast more memorable to me.
I think that kind of encapsulates the very sort of Americanization discussion between the two shows. One thing I will concede, and as a host, I can't have opinions that'll sway it, but I will say that the actual cast and caliber of actor, I think, is a little bit stronger on the UK side. It's a bit of revisionist history, in terms of timescales, but hey, that's my opinion. Doesn't matter. Jack, it's currently 1-1. You have the deciding vote in topic 1, cast and characters. Where does the pendulum swing for you? Who's strongest, US, UK?
I think both provided very good arguments. You're quite right to say yourself, Lewis, that obviously the US office did go 9 seasons, whereas the UK office only had 2. But I think even aside from that, I think I would have to go with the US office on this one. I feel that even with their side characters, if you take out Jim, Pam, and Dwight, there's enough characters there and characterization from the start and throughout, minus the first season, because it was very, very similar to the UK office. I feel that from the second season onwards, there was enough you could have just had a show in that they were able to characterize it well, have the good backstories and whatnot. Whereas like the UK office, there's times that like you don't even know like some of the cast names, like who they are throughout the story. It's just they're just there in the office. Whereas like in the US office, you're able to at least kind of have some sort of a backstory to each character. And I thought the casting for you, I mean, both casting is very good, but like there's something that I find pretty special about how the castings went in the US office that's probably near on perfect. Not I'm saying the UK office isn't, but for me there's just that something special about the cast of the US office that just I have to give my vote to that show.
It's an interesting way to look at it. I think most of my times I did research, a lot of people penalize the US office for having that extended runtime because it's hard to not kind of give it the point just based on pure longevity and the amount of characters that's available. So it's interesting for you to kind of take the opposite side of that. But hey, everybody's got their opinions. Not saying it's right or wrong. But that comes to the conclusion of round 1. In the first round, the US goes back to its corner feeling pretty good about itself. But next is maybe a kind of controversial one, or at least it was a couple of years ago. Now I don't think the two care. Topic 2 is leader versus leader. I asked in previous topics for the guys to leave out the two main, David Brent and Michael Scott, out as they kind of deserve their own debate. I won't go into too much detail here, but we have David from the UK. He's arrogant, self-centered, and cringe, and often gets himself into trouble by saying the wrong thing. he's an ass, but he still just wants to be a good boss. Then, Michael, who's somewhat similar, but despite being self-centered and immature and just as cringe, and many of the same things as David, he gained some redeeming qualities over time. And again, this kind of links into the fact that I had the longest running, well, not longest running, it ran longer than the UK office. So I'm going to go back to you, Jack. Who comes out ahead in the battle between David Brent and Michael Scott? There is some controversy around, the copying, especially as you kind of mentioned in the early seasons. But does Michael Scott grow enough? Does the UK office give you enough of David Brent for you to say, no, he's clearly the stronger character?
I think both characters are brilliant in their own right. I definitely feel that Michael Scott, his character, his humour is probably more is accessible, the right word? I don't know, but it's easier for the audience to relate to. But I do just kind of I put that on the Americanization of like sitcoms and what they're able to do, just with that kind of relatable humour. But in David Brent, I think he's better with his one-liners. Like as a character, I think he seeks a bit more attention and is arguably worse at his job than what Michael Scott is, and that was like kind of the whole premise of the mockumentary to begin with. And I've thought about this a lot because I do really like both. But I was speaking to my friend Colin about this, and it kind of got me to a decision as to why I'm picking this. It took me longer to like Michael Scott than it did David Brent. I like David Brent straight away, whereas it took me a while to get into enjoying Michael Scott. But I feel that's maybe because of the first couple of seasons where he didn't really have his own identity, so to speak. But with David Brent, I instantly loved him. So with that, I'm giving David Brent the vote in UK office, the vote here.
Well, I was not anticipating that. I figured that given the time length, you do bring up an interesting point there about accessibility of Michael, maybe more appealing to general audiences. I think that is kind of a key symptom of the Americanization of TV in general. You look at sitcoms, it's on TV on a regular basis. You don't see a lot of UK produced material. Unfortunately, it's things like Big Bang Theory on repeat for 20 years, or Friends, or whatever. But we'll move on to Adam. Adam, same question to you. Michael Scott, David Brent, where'd you fall? What's your thought process here? Did you also speak to Colin? Did he help you out?
I know I got a chance to speak to Colin. Normally when it's been Colin talking, it's football and it's just light and fast, but maybe I'll consult with him afterwards, see what he thinks. I think when you're coming to compare the two characters, I think Jack makes a good point about Michael Scott changing, and that's just I've done a lot of research on this before in the past, and that season 1 basically Michael Scott was written as like American David Brent. And then literally they realised it wasn't going to work with the show they were writing. You couldn't have a character as unlikable, as unlikable to the rest of the characters. There were basically very little redeeming qualities. You couldn't have that in this show, an American sitcom. It wouldn't have worked. So they had to change him. They had to give him these kind of the kind of redeemable qualities that he gets. And I do think that it's such a testament to David Brent and the character that he's written that they literally couldn't carry it off. He was written to be kind of dislikable, and this, I guess, worst boss ever. And then they literally couldn't carry that over. He was so unlikable that they couldn't do it in the American office. They had to change him. And I just think that's in the whole style of the UK office. I just think it's such a perfectly written character. So I'm gonna have to go with David Brent as well.
Wow, that's quite interesting, because I think that there's a greater debate here that could maybe be had later on, with instead of just focusing on The Office as a sort of case study, a UK versus US sort of humor analysis. It is interesting that I don't mean to insult any American listeners, considering I'm in a relationship with one, but there seems to be an almost I don't want to say a dumbing down of the product, but it's you don't watch the UK Office if you're American and you just can't get it. That's a difficult concept to kind of explain and rationalize and transfer over to a different audience. But topic for another day because we're getting a bit too in depth, I think, for that level of discussion. Stuart, you're up. Who takes the lead? It doesn't really matter. The UK is walking away, but at the end of the day, your opinion is extremely valuable to our listeners and probably also Colin. So please, let's hear it.
That's what I've been saying for years. But yeah, like obviously I wouldn't sway this anyway, but surprisingly, I'm going to have to say Michael Scott is the better boss when you compare to the two. I think he just inches it out for me. Don't get me wrong, David Brent is hilarious, and I love Ricky Gervais and what he does with that character. Like I said, like it's to have the whole show just be about this guy that is just so unlikable and just so like it's like a car crash. You can't not watch it happen. But what Steve Carell does, admittedly post season 2 of the US Office, I just think it's so much better. Like he's still got all of those underlying character defects, and he's still unlikable at times, and he's still again not a good boss. He always wants to be a good, like he wants to be everyone's best friend as opposed to the best boss for his employees. But in spite of all that, he can still be really likable, and there's so much more scope for the storytelling across the US Office with Steve Carell's Michael Scott when you compare it to Ricky Gervais's David Brent. In the show, the US Office really does end for me once he goes. It wasn't the same after he left. So to have that much of an impact on the US Office, for me, the UK Office isn't solely David Brent, but for the US Office, it's the majority of it is Michael Scott for me.
You see, I have the complete opposite opinion to that, whereas I think that the US Office is obviously it does lack quality when Michael Scott leaves, but for the time that he's there, I do think the show is more than Michael Scott. Obviously, he has a big focal point to that, but I do think the cast have been. This is probably why I did vote for them in the cast. There is so much to that cast that it brings that show to another level. Obviously, whatever level they get to, Michael Scott can take it that extra level with Steve Carell, but I don't think that the cast around David Brent with the show at the time, I don't know if they're able to kind of get to that point. Arguably, it could just be because of the longevity of the show, but I feel that it's like even for an audience, again, I do blame it on what America has done with sitcoms, is that I think we like David Brent for how unlikable he is, and I know that they try and portray that in the US Office, but I feel like I like Michael Scott for his goofiness and his kind of look and his perspective on like life, not for solely for what the Office is. I think David Brent portrays better, if that makes sense. And I'm probably mumbling, but it's interesting that like how, because we speak about the US Office quite a bit, and like we agree like on a lot of stuff, and fair a lot of the same stuff funny enough. It's good to see like both like different perspectives that come to different conclusions on it.
Yeah, I just wanted to come in just as a kind of last point on this, on the kind of changing of the character, and I actually want to talk about another sitcom, a well-loved sitcom by myself and the host, Community, and I just want to talk. We've just always throw this out to Lewis almost, in that if we're talking about changing characters, could you imagine, Lewis, if they did a UK version of Community and they did Jeff, and Jeff in Community's got so many redeemable qualities, but he's kind of a dick. But can you imagine like how they would like just double down on him being a dick in the UK one? And I just think you've kind of got to look at that, and as kind of maybe what could be. Obviously, I don't think it will ever happen. I don't know why it would. Community is a very American comedy. I don't think they would try and convert it to UK. I just think that is a kind of example, I think, of a kind of inverse Michael Scott and David Brent situation. Just throwing it out there, just as a wee discussion point, just to kind of maybe give the listeners a kind of, if they're maybe struggle to understand the debate a wee bit, to kind of have a different perspective on it.
I'm just trying to think how that pitch meeting would go over here in the UK. Like, right, we're going to take 6 people, mixed race, mixed age, from like, I don't know, Glasgow College, and just see what happens. I just don't know how I feel about that. But I think it does kind of exemplify the differences between UK and US offices. I think even with a UK community as you kind of posed, even if you kind of double down on the Jeff is just an asshole, I think the audience would still find him entertaining. I think in terms of redemption, that allows a sort of like extended runtime, which I don't think UK audiences particularly care about in terms of having longevity in a show. I think they want the show to be the show, and if it ends, it ends, so what? But, again, I really find this kind of Americanization, UK versus US conversation a bit more interesting than, the chasm that we're looking at it now. It's an interesting point. And hopefully the audience can kind of understand. I think what Jack was kind of getting at was the cast of US Office is just as strong with or without Michael Scott to hold it. Maybe I'm putting words in his mouth. I don't want to speak for him.
No, I'd 100% say it is just as strong, but I'd blame it on creative differences in writing from that point out, trying to do the show without the Michael Scott character. I guess I think the cast is still as strong, and they even like when they bring in like Robert California and whatnot, that's you'd think that when you see that on paper, you're like, that it should work, but it just didn't. But I blame that more in the writing than the cast.
Well, we both know certain Americans are not good at writing episodic TV shows. Moving on, we're going to go to topic 3, and don't look into the order that I'm asking these questions in as any sort of microcosm to analyze us. But topic 3, sorry, in case you didn't know, round 2, topic 2 was won by UK Office, pretty much clear last night. Anyway, topic 3, whose relationship was better? I would be remiss if we didn't discuss the main romances featured in the series. On the UK side, we have Dawn and Tim, and on the US side, we have Jim and Pam. Tim and Dawn don't quite get together till late in the series, but do a good job at convincing the audience they should be together, almost following an atypical budding romance, from friends to innocent flirtations to awkward mutual attractions to declarations of love. Then across the Pacific, Jim and Pam, sort of a typical comedic will they won't they happen drama for first several seasons, and upon marriage it could be argued that the storylines become less interesting. Perhaps this is where an extended runtime could actually hurt the US Office. So, going to the leader in the romance knowledge department, Stuart, whose romance was stronger, UK, US?
First of all, I'd like to put it out there that the best office romance in either show is Dwight and Angela, hands down. But that's by the by. That's not what you've asked. Between the two of them, for me, it's definitely Jim and Pam, because that is what the US Office excels at. For me, it's at its best when it's showcasing the light-hearted and more upbeat themes of the show. It's something. Personally, I felt that the show was building up to that more than anything else, and it handled it really strongly. And like you said, once Jim and Pam, get married and settle down, it's it's almost as if their storylines, kind of peter out. And again, if you took that aspect out of the show, if they'd taken, like similar how to they'd taken Michael Scott out of the show, I think it hurts the show more in the long run. So again, I think perhaps a nice concise run up until when Jim and Pam get married might have benefited the US Office more. But I really like that Tim and Dom have a more real relationship, but it didn't feel, as heartwarming to me as Jim and Pam. Obviously, Tim, he gets another girlfriend, and at times it seems very just despite that Dawn's not with him, and there's very public displays of them going out in front of Dawn and that, and similar to Pam, she was in a terrible relationship with somebody else, and it was nice that Dawn was able to get out of that eventually. But you just feel it with Jim and Pam more, because like a big point of contention that me and Jack have with the US Office is we much prefer Karen to Pam, and I do like the Jim and Karen romance, but obviously whilst they are good together, they're not right together like it was always Jim and Pam. And I'm happy that Karen, she got to go off and get with somebody else, and that's probably the best relationship out of all of the relationships in the shows. But Jim and Pam as a whole is what the show always was leading up to, and it nailed it.
Okay, interesting take there, Adam. Over to you. Who had the stronger romance? Who did it better? Was it the kind of long build up, or did Tim and Dawn just do it right?
I think I would just don't think I can talk about this without just making it clear which one I prefer. I think for me the long build up, Jim and Pam. I just remember first time watching it and just like, maybe it's such a. I don't think you do it in a UK sitcom. Maybe it's such an American sitcom thing, and that I'm like rooting for it, and I'm like, you want it to happen, and I just think that the kind of level of investment there, I just think they absolutely nailed it, and I think that for me as an audience member to feel so invested, to like be so excited, to be sad when things went wrong, to feel disappointed when things went wrong, and then to like feel so happy when they went right. I think that's just such a example of a perfect on-screen relationship, and it's just, for me, that absolutely nails it. Tim and Dawn, absolutely, yeah, I agree with a lot of what Stuart said. Like the realism, it's grounded, it works a lot better in that setting. But I just think, just to compare them side by side, I just think I have to go Jim and Pam for me.
Okay, and Jack, unfortunately, your opinion will not sway the overall result. However, I have a feeling you might toe the other line. Am I right or am I wrong? Who did it better, US, UK?
For me, I am going against Stuart and Adam, and I'll be saying Tim and Dawn. I think that, again, I really enjoy the Jim and really, okay, I don't really enjoy. I enjoy the Jim and Pam story. I think, again, I've said this a lot, and sometimes it's probably helped, and sometimes it probably hasn't helped in my votings. But the Americanization of sitcoms, I think, hinders this story and relationship for me, because when you comparing the two, it's the relatability on like surface level of like to real life that wins it over UK Office, cause like Tim is just a loser, not a good looking guy. He's down his luck, and when he ends up getting another girlfriend, sure as right, he does like try and show it off. But I think that's kind of the point, at least how I see it, is because he still obviously does really love Dawn, and he still wants that to happen, but he can't have her, so he just maybe try to enjoy something else. Whereas Jim, he's a tall guy, he's good looking, he's good with the ladies. There's something that's like, I know that Pam gets jealous, but I don't think the jealousy is intentional. I think it's more that Jim's like, oh, I'm not going to get it, and that's fine, even though it still kind of holds that candle for her, so to speak. But you know what I mean? Jim isn't a loser. Yeah, he's in a quote unquote deadbeat job, as he sees it, as he only sees this job as temporary to begin with, then also ends up being there the full haul before things change at the end. But like, for me, just like relatability, real right down to the surface, Tim and Dawn's relationship is just better. There's the story around it is just better for me.
I think Adam brings up the point of being able to be invested. And I think again it's where the runtime just kind of gives The Office a bit of a step up in the fact that it can explore things a little bit longer, tease them out, and get you invested. Quality aside, I think sometimes you just can't beat that. So the winner of round 3 was the US. So now we enter this final round, 2-1, US in favor. So what is topic 4, I hear you ask? It's memes, ladies and gentlemen. It's glorious, glorious memes. Even those unfamiliar with The Office will know some of the memes. David Brent's motivational misstep, simply the best. It's hilarious scene. Won't get too much into it. The original Stapler and Jelly, the bird suit, the dance. Oh, you're hot. I love it. I'm sure there are so many more that I don't know because I've not fully watched the UK Office. Please don't hold that against me. Then the US side. Longevity is going to pay benefit to this, but I could just say the word parkour. Everybody knows. Jim imitating Dwight. What kind of bear is best? Stay calm. Everybody stay calm. You get the point, right? Everybody knows what's going on here, right? We posed a question to you guys as well on Twitter, @_thebigpicture. Some of your favorite moments and memes from the show. A couple of replies. One from Colin, loves the UK quiz episode. From Stephen, apparently there's too many to list in one tweet, so he gave us 2, so it can't be that many. Chili, oh my god, it's happening. Stay calm, stay fucking calm. So everybody has their favorite moments. So to you guys, runtime aside, this is basically straight up UK versus US humor here. Adam, you're going up first. What is your favorite Office meme, and which show has the best comedy memes going for it?
Favorite Office meme. There's one that stands out to be maybe a little underused, but it gets plenty of use. And I just think for the moment in the show, it always lives right through my head, which is that "Did I stutter?" Which phenomenal. Stanley, what a
Sorry,
guy.
I'm on mute and I burst out laughing.
I hope I've done it justice there, but that's probably my favourite meme across both shows. And then we got in terms of which is funnier. Which show is funnier? I think, end of the day, like Stuart kind of mentioned it earlier, I think even if you're thinking which one's the better show, I think objectively, I just think I've got to lean toward the US Office for comedy. It made me laugh so much. And this is the thing, like I'm not holding the runtime against the UK show, because I think UK shows, and it's part of the kind of pessimistic attitude, part of the kind of, maybe the kind of realism of it is that there's short things, like Stuart mentioned The Thick of It. That's probably my favourite UK TV show ever. And like that, absolutely, like part of that is a short runtime. It's 4 seasons, and it like does exactly what it needs to, and then it leaves the characters off. It's not a happy ending, and that's it. It just works so well for that reason. And the UK Office is the same. It's 2 seasons. It leaves you with the perfect ending. So I do think as a package, it works really well. But I just think that even for me, someone who I find the later seasons of the US Office are, can be quite forgettable. I think that the fact that there's just so much impact from like those the kind of peak seasons of it, and like I could just think of it almost like frame by frame those episodes. I just think I'm gonna have to go for the US Office for me for this one, and just say it's a funnier show.
Right, strong start from the US here. Jack, you're up next. Does the US Office, even though it dips and dives, does it hold your humor long enough? Did the UK Office just hit your funny bone right and give us your favorite moment from either show?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to go US Office. For me, a lot of the standout moments in the UK Office is solely David Brent, whereas in the US Office, as you said, the chilly instant, just Creed Bratton as a whole, my favourite character in the US Office. Anything he does is like comedic gold, and there's so many moments, especially we spoke out it in the chat when we were like, oh, if we're going to get folk to reply to a tweet, we could ask them what their favourite GIF is. And you think of that, and there's so many different characters you would get from the US Office that you put a GIF and folk just know the exact scene, the exact joke of what you mean, and it doesn't necessarily need Michael Scott to be involved in that. But my favourite kind of office like, was that cold? I can't remember if a cold open or not, but it was part of the episode. It was the Golden Ticket episode, and also Michael Scott was in it, and it was Dwight doing the knock joke about the KGB, and then slaps Michael halfway through saying the KGB will ask the questions, and then Michael goes mental, and then Jim goes like ding dong, ringing the bell. Michael wants to get involved in the joke, so he goes, answer the door, Dwight, and like they keep on arguing who to answer the door. Then Jim slaps Dwight and going, the KGB will wait for no one. And Dwight looks at the camera and just kind of like, it's true. That always just sends me off for me. And I think, even though that includes the Michael Scott gag there is my favourite, I think because there's so many moments without Michael Scott, whereas I can't think of as many in the UK Office without David Brent. I go to the US Office.
Wonderful take. That was a good way through that. Stuart, unfortunately, like previously, your vote here will not sway the outcome. However, it is abundantly clear that your opinion is the most valuable here. So same question to you. Humor versus humor, moment versus moment. Who's your winner? What's your favorite?
My favourite, I don't know about memes, like my favourite Office moments from both sides. I love the fire drill. It's absolutely hilarious. It's probably not a meme as a whole, but it's spawned multiple from that opening. That's one of my all-time favourite US Office moments. Also the customer call between like Michael, Jim, and Dwight. It's the $1 million sale. I love that as well. That's one of the top. I had to pause. I was laughing so much at that. from the UK office, I love the Ricky Gervais laugh, dance rather. That's probably one of the earliest memes that I remember, because like it predates like current meme culture. As much as I think that the UK office is the better show, and I still quote it to this day, you know, I've got the arse this side, and nobody says I've got some bad news and some irrelevant news. Like, I say that all the time. Despite all of that, the US office is definitely funnier and more memeable, if that's a word. Obviously,
It's definitely a word. I
See,
looked
there
up
we
in the
go.
dictionary.
Dictionary corner, thank you. Obviously, it's hit a bigger audience and it is more current. I don't think that has anything to go against it, because again, it is. I don't take memes as a good indicator of how funny things are, but the US office, like Adam said, it's gotten so many laughs from me, like from its cold opens to its quotes to its gags to like just the camera expressions. The US office is the funnier show in my opinion.
And there you have it, a clean sweep for the funniest show, US Office. So that takes us to the end of our topic discussion. So let's provide an overview before I give you the results, even though, you know, you can do basic math. So topic 1, cast and characters. Started off US, Adam went out strong. Stuart comes out in run 2 with the UK, and Jack sways at US, so run 1. Cast and characters, the US office is stronger. Going to topic 2. Leader versus leader, David Brent versus Michael Scott. Unfortunately, the redemption of Michael Scott was not enough, as Jack and Adam both went UK right off the bat and just took it there. Round 3, whose relationship was better? Same as topic 2, US just came right out of the bat with 2 votes to 1. Unfortunately, they win there. And round 4, it was a clean sweep, US. So therefore, your winner for best office is the US office. Congratulations. Give yourself a pat on the back if you were here.
Reese, if you're listening, give yourself a pat on the back, because you fucked it. You've absolutely fucked it. All right, well done.
Yeah, maybe got Reese to call in from his new office over in New York. So that is us for today. We will be posing this question to you on Twitter to decide what is the best and ultimate office. But that's all we have time for today, folks. I'd like to say thank you for listening, and to remind you to follow us over on Twitter and Instagram, actually, at _thebigpicture. That way you'll never miss out on what's coming next. Hit subscribe, follow, ring the bell, whatever relates to the platform you're on, and share with your friends. Next time, well, Jack, why don't you let the audience know what's happening next time?
This kind of feels like a majority draw, doesn't it? Like in the boxing, like the categories came like 2 apiece, I think, unless my math's wrong, but because like individual votes, like it's a win for the US office, but I don't know if it feels right. It's not like overwhelming, so I guess we do need the people of Twitter to vote and let us know that who rightfully should win. But our next time we're going to do, we'll be doing another stream. We'll be on Twitch, sweet_Lou2, sweetlou_2, whatever the correct way is. It'll be linked somewhere. It'll be on our socials, and we'll be playing probably Grand Theft Auto Racing, talking about the latest kind of movie trailers, Shang-Chi. I mean, that's not a movie trailer, but that's a movie that came out. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about the new Matrix trailer. We'll be talking about the Eternals coming out. We'll be talking about the new James Bond that's going to come out. I guess the final trailers that are happening for that. What's next for James Bond? It'll be a good discussion episode, and you get to watch us race and die and get raging when we complain at no contact being on, and when contact gets put on, we die straight away. So it'll be great times all around.
Yeah, I've been biting my tongue this episode. Even though the US wins, it feels a bit hollow. It feels just uncomfortable and wrong. But hey, who am I to have an opinion as a host? And as Jack said, we will be live streaming on Twitch at sweetlou2, no underscore. He said the same tag twice. But it's all right. It's all right. Nobody's perfect, Jack. Just me. And that's all. Thanks to the panelists. And give yourself a clap, a round of applause. Hey! That was depressing. Thanks to you guys for listening. Until next time, see you later. Play the outro.